How are you feeling now?
Happy.
You're feeling happy?
Mm.
How were you feeling during treatment?
Not so happy.
Colin is honestly truly incredible, and his family is truly incredible. They would drive 5.5 hours each way from Virginia to come see us in clinic, sometimes on a weekly basis. So Colin participated in what we call a randomized phase 3 clinical trial for children specifically with the type of genetic mutation that he had in his leukemia. The specific genetic change, the Philadelphia chromosome that occurs in that type of ALL really makes the leukemia cell grow out of control and have a difficult time being killed with regular chemotherapy. And we were able to add a targeted medicine called imatinib. This has really revolutionized both the cure and the care of these children. But because we were still using very intensive regular chemotherapy, we know that that's associated with a lot of really terrible side effects.
And he developed a pancreatitis related to one of his chemotherapies that put him in the hospital for most of the rest of that summer.
So Colin's course was really difficult. He ended up having a pancreatic pseudocyst, which is a very rare complication of one of the common chemotherapies that we use called pegosparaginase. And once we got the imaging to see that he had this pseudocyst, we knew that we needed to stop that medication permanently so that he wouldn't get it again. When this complication happened, sometimes we need to do surgery to help fix it. Colin was the smallest and youngest patient who had ever had the procedure done. It took a lot of complicated arrangements to make this happen. He had such a good outcome, but he had a lot of nutritional issues. And so we had to really work with our nutrition team and work with his family to make sure that he had appropriate supplemental nutrition to keep his strength up so that we were able to continue with the rest of his chemotherapy.
He had to have a G-tube placed because he still wasn't eating food. He was doing kind of like great by the summer going into second grade and kind of completely came off chemo in the fall of second grade. I guess the last 2 weeks of second grade, he started having bone pain again, and we checked the mutation and it was back. He was going to need a bone marrow transplant.
It is an intensive treatment. Families' lives are truly disrupted for a long period of time. The bone marrow is really the factory where your blood cells are made, and leukemia is a cancer of blood cells. So when we give somebody a bone marrow transplant, we give them very intensive chemotherapy, sometimes radiation, that wipes out their own ability to make bone marrow cells or blood cells. Then we take bone marrow cells or peripheral stem cells. We take those baby blood cells from a healthy donor, and we give them to the child after they've had their own marrow wiped out. By doing this, we can replace their own factory cells with healthy cells. We can also provide a new donor immune system that can find and kill leukemia cells that have slipped past the child's own immune system. Kids spend about a month in the hospital, and then once they are ready to leave the hospital, they're having frequent follow-up visits. They're on many medications. Sometimes they need to come back into the hospital for side effects from the transplant.
He went through transplant really smoothly, and he's doing really well today.
I think his family built more Legos than any family I've ever seen before. One of my favorite things about Colin is his massive head of curly hair. And once he got through some of the more intensive phases of chemotherapy and his hair started to grow back, it just was the epitome of his little personality to me, to see him with this big happy head of curly hair. Just seeing him acclimate back to school and do fun things with his little brother, I think was just such joy.
Doing this research that is focused on helping children have more effective treatments and safer treatments is going to this neglected area. Even though children have an entire lifetime to live if they're able to be cured.
And we are so grateful and so dependent upon the partnership with Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation and other childhood cancer research organizations really to help us to overcome some of these hurdles. Some of my very first funding was actually from Alex's Lemonade Stand. I had a Young Investigator grant that was the second grant that I ever received. And it was really instrumental, I think, in helping me to transition from training into my first faculty position. I was also fortunate to be a scholar in developmental therapeutics through CHOP Center for Excellence, funded through Alex's, and that was instrumental in helping me to achieve my first federal funding from the National Institutes of Health.
Alex's Lemonade Stand funded my very first research grant. It can really sort of set you on the path that forms your whole career. Without that funding, it's not possible to continue and sustain your interest. This job is, frankly, such a privilege. We are part of a child's life when they and their caregivers are going through the worst experience that one can imagine. Working with kids is incredible. Their resilience and their positivity. You can come in and see a child who's still playing, which is really inspiring. It's a very humbling and honoring experience to be a part of these families' lives.
We got amazing care up at CHOP, but you know, you'll do anything for your child, and that's we were determined to get him the best possible care, to get the best possible chance of having him cured.